We are here at Antifa headquarters in my apartment, right next to the brick factory that was used to throw bricks at local cops. How we doing today?
Yes, that's right. We're recording live from...
No!
Suckers. Suckers.
Now, friends, these books are free.
Suckers.
Paid for by real Americans who want others to know the truth.
Suckers.
But I'm an American. Some of the things I see in this country of ours make my blood boil.
Suckers.
What's going to become of us real Americans?
Suckers.
Real Americans.
Suckers.
Real Americans.
Suckers.
Real Americans.
Suckers.
Remember that when you hear this kind of talk, somebody is going to get something out of it, and it isn't going to be you. So let's not be
Suckers.
This is episode 0 of Don't Be a Sucker, the podcast where we will be talking about fascism.
Yes.
And
how to not be a sucker.
And how to not be a sucker. Where did that name come from, Tom? Because you came up with that.
Well, I did not come up with it. It was actually came up with by a probably some underpaid person in the United States Department of War. It was an army video from the I want to say 44 or 45.
It was 43, I think.
Was it 43?
It was a couple years before the war ended.
Okay,
yeah.
so 43, which you've probably heard at the beginning of this, kind of very tastefully edited into a very nice, a banger of an opening.
Flipped it and screwed it,
yeah,
as they say.
Exactly. That's a Tom original right there.
That's right.
Aside from the samples. But, from a video talking about how to be aware of fascists, their talking points, kind of their way of carrying themselves, and how to not fall victim to, because they're sometimes quite conniving.
They are very conniving.
In the ways that they try to convince you that what they're saying is correct. And so,
And I will add this video, if you do watch it out there, I think it does have a sheen of American excellence, and
if you're a Freemason, Freemason's delight, you know.
It is a Freemason delight of a video.
Yeah. For all the Freemasons out there watching, of which I'm sure we have many.
Yes.
You know.
So I think, we want to talk about this because they, fascists and just reactionaries in general have a lot of tricks to get into your emotions and to really take advantage of your biggest fears. And a lot of times some of your most irrational ideas and ideologies and thoughts. Sometimes going as far as, bringing in aliens and the pyramids. And we will get to all of that type of stuff. And we're going to really try and dig deep into the propaganda and teach you how to not be a sucker.
Yes. And I also think, so primarily what we're going to talk about, are those, fascist movements, fascist talking points, the history of fascism. We're primarily going to be focusing on the post-war period, but in the early episodes, I anticipate we're going to be talking about pre-World War II and current World War II. Well, current at the time.
Well, I think there's a lot
fascism.
of ideologies that predate, Mussolini's invention of fascism, quote unquote. And, a lot of those ideas come from long histories of, race science, social relations, and just all sorts of other social factors that get thrown in there that fascism does take advantage of. So while some of the stuff we will look at aren't fascist, they do contribute heavily into fascist quote unquote theory.
They could hang with fascists.
They could, if they were born,
they were at a bar, they'd be hanging.
Right.
They'd probably be chatting up all the brown shirts and the black shirts, just like any other patron of the bar.
Absolutely.
So we want to kind of, draw a magnifying glass to folks like that in particular. And we also, I feel that we also need to do this because oftentimes specifically within popular media, within news and whatnot, it's not only is it not really acknowledged, but it's kind of just accepted as like these people are, oh, we got to give them a platform, because of the free speech and whatnot. I mean, we're protecting our rights by me allowing you to spew all of this, hateful nonsense.
Well, and that goes back to, the idea of, our liberalism in Western countries of, we are going to war it out on the stage of ideas. There are no bad ideas. It is just a battle for ideological supremacy. But often what you find is that there are people who are not willing to play on just the ideological battlefield, and are not going to play by your rules.
Yes.
If you are a pacifist, there are people who will not play by the pacifism.
Folks, we're going to vote out Hitler. I'm saying it here. I think Hindenburg, that was his name. Von Hindenburg,
yes.
he's going to, we're going to vote him in. I don't think Ernst Thälmann's, he doesn't really have that sauce like Hindenburg's got. If we vote, you got to just pinch your nose and vote for the lesser of two evils.
Because that has never not worked.
Right.
Another point, and I am going to butcher this quote, but I heard it somewhere, and I cannot tell you where, which gives a lot of credence to this quote.
You'll have to edit and post in a very jarring way.
Very jarring way. But, we want to be able to identify Hitler before he's Hitler.
Mm-hmm.
At a certain point, Hitler was not Hitler.
I mean, he was.
He wasn't.
He was always Adolf Hitler.
Yes. But what we know of as being this, complete masochist, kind of genocidal guy, there were a lot of signs leading up to that. And the final solution was the final solution.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of other things tried before, like deportations and things that we see in America here today. And we want to be able to point to those things before they escalate and become larger problems.
Yes. I guess right out the gate, we should, make it very apparent that we do have our own stints, our own, views of these particular topics. We subscribe to our own ideologies. I hate to anybody who tells you that they're giving you a completely unbiased news source is completely full of it because, they're biased in some degree or another, just like us.
And oftentimes a lot of quote unquote unbiased people have kind of let the fascists win.
Yes.
If you look at, Weimar Germany, there were newspapers that did not want to report on the violence against Jews because they didn't want to seem biased against the Nazis.
Yes.
We're
biased. Not like that. Not that kind of bias, but we are biased. So to start off, we'll introduce it. So I'm Tom.
And my name is Tom. And I do realize it probably is a little late to introduce our names. But you know what? We do things a little bit unconventionally here.
Yes.
At Don't Be a Sucker.
Yes. I'm quite an unconventional man myself.
A bit quirky with it.
I'm
a bit zany.
A little quirked up.
A bit quirked
I would
up.
say hate to admit, but I actually love to admit the fact that I'm quirked up. Tom, am a Marxist. I'm sorry if you're coming at this, hoping we had a very liberal point of view. I hate to break it to you, but it's not looking that way.
So real quick, because there is tons of misconceptions about what Marxism actually is. How do you relate to Marxism and
So I personally subscribe to Marxism in his class analysis of society in the most basic sense. I feel like liberals and most academia and media and, politicians within the United States, the Overton window of political discussion has been narrowed to what is only acceptable via capitalists within the country. So business owners, like Elon Musk, Jeff
CEOs
Bezos, CEOs, COOs
are great
you know?
men and now women of history.
Yes,
Just very recently.
increasingly, yes, which is they paint it to you like an achievement, but is it really? We'll get to that.
We will talk about
but-
what system we're liberating people into. But
yes. And so I personally view society through a class lens, which is essential in Marxism. Understanding that there are two classes, not three, of the upper, middle, and lower class, but there is a working class, and then there is a capitalist class, a bourgeoisie,
and
if
a
you were.
lower capitalist class, which
Yes.
could maybe be described as middle class, but it more relates to small business owners who aspire to be large capitalists.
Yes, in the classical sense, described as the petite bourgeoisie, which we will definitely get into what sets them apart from the rest of society. But in its essence, that is essentially where I'm coming to the table as a Marxist in class analysis of history.
I as well, just to be clear.
I find it to be very practical, and it makes things much, I don't want to say easier to understand, but things definitely fall in place a lot. Things explain themselves a lot
They
more.
do,
So
yes.
certain motivations and movements of people and capital and resources definitely explain themselves when looking at it from a Marxist lens. And in particular, from where I'm coming from, I am a Marxist-Leninist. So I believe personally in the teachings of Lenin, his book, Imperialism, The Highest Stage of Capitalism, a banger. If you haven't read it, it's very good.
Very good,
and
yes.
if you read it, you could honestly think it would be written last week.
And
All
when
of
we're
it still
saying Lenin,
carries.
we're not talking about John Lennon.
No.
Is that correct?
We're talking about Vladimir Ilyich?
Yeah, his middle name.
Ilyevich?
Yeah.
Is it Ilyevich or Ilyich? Lenin.
Ooh, yeah. I think it's Ilyich.
Ilyich? Yeah,
I feel
thought
like
it was
I've
shorter.
heard Ilyich more.
I was it was short. V.I. Lenin.
A short king,
V.I.
might I add. He was 5'5".
Yes, and he was ugly as all hell, according to Rosa Luxemburg.
Oh no, Rosa!
Yeah, no, he was short, ugly, and just like the perfect guy to lead the Soviet Union. If he were alive today, he would be probably the most annoying guy on Twitter. But
Absolutely.
Regardless, so that is where I'm coming. Coming at, and also I should mention, I do have a slight background in this subject. I went to college for history, a particular degree which I won't specify on the air. But I'm not coming at this as like a professional researcher. I'm not a grad student. I don't have access to, as much as I would love to have access to, some of the journals that, oh man, I gotta ask somebody that I know if I could just like maybe borrow their login
Just
or something.
bum off of them.
Just kind of bum off.
Just hang
Although I
around
think-
at the college and
Oh.
start talking to people. I got into what we're gonna do on this podcast through my grandma, who did about 30 years of research and gathering primary sources of various extremist groups, left and right, in America. And to be clear, she didn't have any extremist views. She did this more for academic purposes, to create an archive. And after she passed, we went through her house, and I ended up finding a lot of primary resources that, furthered that I could use to further my own knowledge of fascism and of socialism. But I started researching fascism as a way to fight fascism, because I do believe in knowing your enemy. And by reading the extremist texts myself and identifying patterns and documenting these patterns, to help myself identify fascism and ideological roots of fascism. And but a lot of what we're going to do is going to be a bit based on that. We are going to expand outside of the things that I have gotten. we are independent researchers.
Exactly.
Now, I don't have a degree in this. I'm a musician. I make,
Made the opening.
I made the opening.
And a lot more in this project,
Yeah,
behind the scenes.
Yes.
I'm kind of just here, if I'm being honest.
But we don't have, credentials necessarily, but we got heart and we care a lot about what we're doing. And, we are doing the best we can at gathering information and giving you, our views on it. And we spend a lot of time on it. So I don't think it should discredit us that we are independent, but it should be noted that, we don't have degrees in this, per se.
I mean, I have a degree in history.
You do. Yes.
I just like the subject.
I have
a
degree in sound recording technology. So to kind of hit on the biases, I am the same way. I have kind of that Marxist, and I've read a lot of Lenin.
He's good. He's good.
I tend to just think of myself as kind of a non-secular socialist. I do like that term. That's
what Tom Morello calls
That's
himself.
what Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine calls himself. I think that, there's not many of us and we got to band together, including anarcho-communists. I know that we have the same goals, just different ways of getting there. But
I do bite my tongue.
Yes. We both have our criticisms.
In fear of the comment section.
Yes.
Wherever this gets uploaded.
Now, apart from, just the class consciousness of Marxism, another thing that I subscribe to is the materialist aspect of it. That, and basically that meaning materialism sees humans as coming from and being a part of nature, not put here by a god or gods, and that all ideas, religions, and thoughts are results of the material conditions that humans seek to alienate themselves from constantly. Basic human needs need to be met for everyone to live a fulfilling life. And we should see crime in underserved and over-policed areas as a reflection of the material conditions those residents are forced to endure under American capitalism. And we shouldn't see it as a reflection of the natural tendencies or souls or, the genetics of the residents, like a lot of reactionary right-wing people tend to do. And even, some Democrats do that as well. We need to focus on whether people are being housed, clothed, fed, over just lofty ideals of equality. We need to enact equality. And I don't think we do a very good job of that in this country, in a lot of Western countries that rely on capitalism, because it doesn't incentivize helping your fellow man and woman and they and thems. It
can't forget about them.
No. And also, I don't think we should be, I want to throw this in there with class. We need not be class reductionist. I think class serves things like racism and misogyny and transphobia, but also the other way around. We're not going to get rid of our class system without getting rid of racism. And we're not going to get rid of racism without getting rid of class. They go hand in hand. In a lot of ways, are the hundreds of years of racial oppression of Black and Indigenous people in this country helps uphold the classism and, uphold the capitalist class. And the capitalist class are going to continue to push systemic racism because it upholds classism. So we can't do one without the other. So I subscribe to something called intersectionality, which is that, people have overlapping identities within themselves. So me being a white cis male, my experience being those things varies very differently from, let's say, a black woman who has to deal with both misogyny and racism. Or let's say a white trans woman who is white but has to deal with misogyny and transphobia. Intersectionality, coined by Kimberly Williams Crenshaw, by the way, is really a good way of just understanding how different forms of oppression interact and compound into other forms of oppression. Class, gender identity, race, sexuality, religion, and disability, it all intersects and can shape the experience of a person in a society that oppresses different identities in different unique ways. And we can't boil anything down to one thing. If you believe in equality for black people, you need to believe in equality for women, transgendered people, etc., because they make up black people. Black people does not just consist of black men or black women. It consists of basically everyone under the sun. Now,
who's black?
Who's black? Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
I mean, we could definitely go a Richard Dawkins, we are all African.
We could bring it back. But, and you can't claim to care about, gay rights unless you want equality for black people and you want equality for Asian people, Hispanic people, etc. We all have overlapping identities, and we need to fight oppression at every single level, whether it's class, race, sex, gender, yeah. So,
pretty succinct. What he said is all I'll add,
That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
And I just want to say before we wrap up that one of our main sources for these upcoming episodes is going to be the Hall Hoag collection, which is through Brown University. My grandmother helped Gordon Hall collect some of the things in that collection. If you don't know what it is, it's the biggest collection of propaganda, basically, I think in America at the very least. And my grandmother helped collect a lot of it by infiltrating groups like the John Birch Society and so on. But also a lot of it was just kind of mailed propaganda. As a result, we're going to be talking about some of the most influential works in the fascist and far-right movement, specifically in America, but I'm sure we will branch out to other places in the world. But we are Americans, so we're fighting it from the belly of the beast here. And through my grandmother as well, another source that we're going to be using is some of the stuff that I inherited after she had passed away. So I have a decently big collection myself as well. So we'll be going through a lot of it and hopefully learning a thing or two on the way, how we can better fight fascism and how we can make our world a better place. And as we've kind of described, we're going to try and do it through a leftist lens. So we're probably going to have to touch upon quite a lot of socialist and Marxist theory just to talk about fascism as well. So hopefully we can explore some more leftist ideas in the process of analyzing the right wing.
Yeah. Follow us on, where are we putting this?
Yeah,
Maybe
we'll do
Spotify,
YouTube, Spotify,
Apple Podcasts.
My lovely girlfriend made me a whole document of how to release a podcast
awesome.
that we will be looking at.
Awesome.
Because she actually knows how to put things out there and what's the word?
Promote.
See,
Promoter.
I'm so stupid with promoting. I don't even know what it's called.
Don't even know the name. Don't even know the word.
Well, until next time, everybody, this is Tom.
This is Tom.
And this is Tom.
There's got to be a better way.
There's got to be a better way to close it. We'll figure it out.
Suckers. Suckers. Suckers.